One of the things that's helpful to remind ourselves when we do face opposition or obstacles or hardships, as we shared about yesterday, is that this too shall pass, as many of us have heard from older relatives. And in chapter 5, the rebuilding of the temple resumes. And in verse 2, we hear these words: Then Zerubbabel, son of Shealtiel, and Jeshua, son of Jozadak, set out to rebuild the house of God in Jerusalem, and with them were the prophets of God helping them. And if you look back at verse 1, you see that the prophets who are named are Haggai and Zechariah, and we have books in the Bible bearing both of their names. And part of what I take from these couple verses in Ezra chapter 5 is how, again, building the house of the Lord, doing God's work, is a communal, it's a team effort. And different people have different roles. And you have Zerubbabel and Jeshua, they're setting out to physically rebuild the house of God. And so they're focused on that side of the project. But you have the prophets Haggai and Zechariah who are there, who are lending their encouragement and helping them. And one of the things when I was a little kid growing up, one of my favorite TV shows was Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And I loved Mr. Rogers. Fred Rogers was a wonderful Christian man who really embodied the fruit of the Spirit, the gentleness and kindness and patience and all of it. And one of the things that Fred Rogers famously said in the midst of any crisis is to look for the helpers. Look for the helpers, those who are coming to assist other people. And that's a role all of us can play, regardless of how old we may be, regardless of any physical limitations we may be facing. One of the things we can always be asking ourselves is, how can I help in any given situation that I'm aware of? And so that's something you can think about in your own life. How can I help? How can I encourage? It might be writing a card. It might be sending an encouraging note or an email, making a phone call to someone you know may be at home and by her or himself. But what a difference it would make if, as followers of Jesus, we were known as people who are helpers, who come to the aid of people who are lonely, hurting, broken, who are being victims of injustice. That's really what Christians and the people of God are called to do. Some of us do our work for God with our hands, as Zerubbabel and Jeshua were doing, and some with the Word of God, like Haggai and Zechariah. But we all can contribute, and I thank you for your contribution to BBC.